Okay, so now let's talk about the final exam. So there is a final exam 1 and 2, right? The reason that I divide this final exam into two are the first, I think it's better for you to have some break, right? That's why I divided this exam into two parts. Because if you take the exam and then if the exam is like lasts more than 2 hours or close to 2 hours, I know that you'll really feel exhausted, and right. And another reason is by having the break, right? I think you're gonna make a less mistake, right? Okay, so there's a couple of reasons that I divided this exam into two parts. And if you look at the final exam part 1, and there's two multiple choice questions, and for each exam questions I post a suggested time limit. So usually for the multiple choice questions at 2 minutes. So since I have two multiple choice questions, the total is 4 minutes, and there'll be only one essay questions. And this essay questions is about the multiple linear regressions. And I assume that 30 minutes is enough, but I'll give you around, like extra 10 more minutes, right? Roughly, right? Okay, and then if you look at the exam part 2, there's two multiple choice questions, right? The suggested time limit is 4 minutes because 2 minutes for each. And then two essay questions, so the 30 minutes, and there are two, so the suggested time limit is 1 hour, right? But I give you extra 20 more minutes, right? Just I think in case you need more time, right? So I give you extra like 20 or maybe 30 more minutes, right? Okay, now make sure that you use your time wisely, right? And do not spend too much time on one problem, and then organize your answer, right? Okay, now this is something that you should do before you're taking the exam. For both part 1 and part 2, right? Since you need to use the Google Colab, for example, for the multiple linear regressions, right? And by the way, this is the code that I used for the homework assignment and the lecture, basically. So make sure that you make this code ready, right? And then yes, you're gonna use life expectancy.csv file, same thing, right? So I highly recommend that you open these three tab, right? One for the multiple linear regressions, and another tab for the KN and the fish, right? And then the third one is K-means clustering, right? So for example, these are the files that I use to create homework assignments and the lecture, right? So make sure that to save your time, right? Make sure that before you start the exam, make these tabs, right? These files available, and then of course make sure that you Google mount first, right? And then make sure that you can read the file. Okay, for example, for the k-means clustering, I use the file like moles custom.csv file, right? To test if you can, read. I don't think I can read it because I did not mount, right? So make sure that before you start the exam, mount this Google Drive for the k-means, and then for the KNN fish, right? Same thing. And then for the multiple linear regressions, right? However, for the KNN fish, right? You are not reading the fish.homework.csv file. Rather, you are reading fish exam.csv file. The fish exam.csv files is currently in the shared directory. Okay. So what you have to do is before you click the link, right? Before you click the link, right? Before you click the link, make sure that you mount your Google Drive, right? And then change to fish.exam.csv file, right? Instead of homework 1. And then let's see. Yeah, hold on. This is the all lowercase, right? Yeah, fish.exam.csv is all lowercase letters, so I have to change this is to fish, right? Okay, a lowercase letter, right? So yeah, just fish-exam.csv. This is something you have to change, and then make sure that you can read the file. Okay. Then you start taking the exam, right? After you make sure that everything is readable, right? For the part 1, you have to make sure that you can read this file, life expectancy.csv file. And for the part 2, fish exam.csv files, and then what? The more customer.csv files, right? Those files should be ready, and then you should be able to read them without any problem, right? And then you can take the final exam part 2, okay? So the final exam part 1 is, yes, and that's a multiple linear regressions, and the final exam part 2 is about k-means and KNN fish, right? And basically, you should able to, answering the questions, you have to run this, you have to change a couple of lines, right? Since this is a timed exam, you're not gonna change a lot of lines of code, right? Many lines of code, right? Basically, you're gonna need to change only like a few lines, okay? So, but pretty much the settings, right? Settings of all these three Python code, right? When you look at the exam, their settings are almost identical, okay? Only thing you need to do is just change a few lines of code here and there, okay? Okay, so I guess that's it. Oh, by the way, I think this exam will be ready around 2 p.m. today, Wednesday, right? Hold on, where is the file? Yeah, so the final exam will be ready around 2 p.m. today, right? Wednesday. And then I'll give you 24 hours, maybe 30 hours, okay? Both part 1 and part 2, right? Maybe 36 hours. Oops, what happened? Okay, so I'll just give you about 36 hours, right? But you know that it's, so then that means I think Thursday night, around the Thursday night. And yes, so, after taking the exam part 1, maybe you can take some break, right? It's really up to you. Maybe you can take like 1 hour break, 30-minute break, it's up to you. But as long as you can finish both part within like 36 hours, right? Okay, so yes, that's it. Okay, so good luck on your final exam. Thank you.